Come back on one more time too. But I'll keep mine on so everybody feels comfortable.
Do you want me to go with you for the walkthrough on the ark?
Sounds good.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry.
So,
We recorded on the camera. and stream.
Okay.
It's 1 o'clock.
Good afternoon. We are here today to honor Sharon Gorman for the role that she played in our lives and to celebrate her life here among us. Her immediate family is here in person, and many of you are watching via live stream from your current location, but please know that your presence is felt and appreciated. Each of you is connected here today because in some way, great or small, for some length of time, short or long, Sharon brought something of value into your lives. Just knowing her added another thread to the tapestry of your life. So her life and how it touched yours is what we are here to honor today. The fact that you are connecting in this way today is a profound tribute to Sharon, a testimony to the way that she lived her life and the gifts that she brought to each of you. The purpose of this service is to commit to memory the uniqueness and the spirit of your beloved Sharon, and to give consolation and comfort and support to her husband Phil, her son August, her mother Elaine, her brother Doug, her sister Deborah, and all of their partners, as well as all the family and friends and in-laws who are live streaming in today, to create that community of comfort and support with each other. Together, we ask the Holy Spirit to guide us through this experience to something very precious, something that will be to all here today, to all who have been connected to Sharon in her life, a guiding light and an eternal promise of peace. So may the words of the 23rd Psalm bring us all comfort and peace. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemy. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Sharon now dwells in the house of the Lord forever, and we will only know her in our memory. So we affirm that memory to be one of beauty, inspiration, and comfort. We are celebrating that life of hers, which perpetuates itself in each of us, as we are all participants in the one interconnecting life. From time to time, we come face to face with reality, such as the reality of the departure of a loved one. At those times, it's important to firmly and clearly accept the truths as declared by the master teachers that life, the human soul, is eternal. It is important because this is the grace-filled way to move from grief to a serene and fulfilling life. And it is the way that we allow the good that Sharon brought to each of you to live on through you. Since whatever good you received from her dwells within you forever. It lives within you and works for you, now so much a part of your own nature that you would have to pause and search, perhaps very deeply, to remind yourself where it even came from. So think of her now. What comes to mind? Her kind and loving heart, her exuberance and infectious laugh, her quick wit and optimism, her creativity and artistry, her deep concern for others. These are all wonderful qualities that this beautiful woman shared freely and consistently throughout her life. How blessed you all were to know her and to be loved by her. And may you also know that you loved her the very best you could, and that love will bless her throughout eternity. Like a diamond that forms under pressure, we are molded by the gifts and the treasures of a life that is shared with us, and by the grief of that life departing. And it may seem really unfair that someone still so young and vital is taken from us. But I have observed that very often someone who has lived her life with such kindness, who has been so open-hearted and so full of life and has given so many gifts, somehow they're ready sooner to move on into eternal life, into that eternal life of spirit that awaits them, having already lived such a good and full life, as Sharon did, sharing herself every step of the way. Phil shared with me that Sharon was an incredible teacher, having spent many years as a school guidance counselor and more recently teaching others to paint and create, even him. Whatever she learned, and it seems that she learned a lot, especially because she seemed to try new things all the time, she seemed happiest when she could give it away, teach it, offer it to others. Most importantly, as a devoted and supportive mother to her own child, and then to other children and even to adults. The deep love that she had for family and friends will never die, because although lives may end, love never does. And so we celebrate Sharon's expression of life, and we honor the good we received by our association with her, by honoring the life in the world that is left to us. So let today serve to remind us all that life is to be lived and life is to be celebrated, just as Sharon did, and just as I think she would probably want everyone to do. Because today we are celebrating Sharon's wonderful life. She had many talents, and I love that she tried many careers over the course of her life, landing every job she ever interviewed for. I hear she was just so wonderful with people. Everybody just loved her. She truly followed her passions. She graduated from Fairleigh Dickinson University as a social worker. She became a guidance counselor. And eventually she created her own art. So much of it is here today, and it's beautiful, and it's diverse, and it's just so rich. She shared the magic of painting with others. And as I am told, she did many things in between. Sharon touched many people with her vibrancy, her caring nature, and her incredible kindness. She was truly a great soul and has left a great legacy of love. So let us remember now all that Sharon was all the gifts that you received from her that are still with you as you listen to this poem. This is called When Great Trees Fall by Maya Angelou. When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder. Lions hunker down in tall grasses, and even elephants lumber after safety. When great trees fall in forests, some things recoil into silence, their senses eroded beyond fear. When great souls die, the air around us becomes light, rare, sterile. We breathe briefly. Our eyes briefly see with a hurtful clarity. Our memory suddenly sharpened, examines, gnaws on kind words unsaid, promised walks never taken. Great souls die, and our reality, bound to them, takes leave of us. Our souls, dependent upon their nurture, now shrink, wisens. Our minds, formed and informed by their radiance, fall away. We are not so much maddened as reduced to the unutterable ignorance of dark, cold caves. And when great souls die, after a period, peace blooms, slowly and always irregularly. Spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses, restored, never to be the same, whisper to us, they existed. They existed. We can be and be better, for they existed. I think you would all agree that you are better because Sharon existed in your life. And every great soul needs a great soulmate. And Sharon had that in her beloved Phil. They were the love of each other's life. Real life high school sweethearts. They spent 45 plus years as a loving couple and 35 as a happily married couple. And I think he was her true north. Well, she liked to change things up a lot, try new things, often recreate herself continually. He provided the safety, the security, and the stability to let her be whatever she needed to be. What a beautiful balance. And he was able to maintain this role as her true north throughout her illness. Despite his own emotional distress, he served as her advocate, her caregiver, and her emotional support. What a beautiful, beautiful blessing. And I know that you will all deeply miss Sharon, but wouldn't it be strange if you didn't? Your sense of loss is a sign of love, not a mark of tragedy. There's an empty place in your heart. Let it be a place that becomes a safe haven where you go to remember, to rejoice, and to be strengthened. I offer another poem to you, this one by Elizabeth Ammons. You can shed tears because they are gone, or you can smile because they lived. You can close your eyes and pray they will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all they left for you. Your heart can be empty because you can't see them, or you can be full of the love you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember only that they are gone, or you can cherish their memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind and feel empty, or you can do what they would want. Smile, open your heart, love, and go on. So wouldn't this be a beautiful legacy to remember her by? In her honor, in her memory, try to show up more present and available for every moment of this beautiful life that you are given. Pay a bit more attention to the people in your life, and they will feel as special as Sharon made you feel. Let the imprint that she made on your heart lead you to a fuller life. So the ripples of love and kindness and generosity from her heart will continue to bless others through you. And how blessed you all have been to have this beautiful blueprint of a life so well lived. We can all honor Sharon by following the footsteps that she so enthusiastically left. To live life fully every day with exuberance, to treat others fairly and justly, to bring love and kindness into all we do, to laugh more, to recreate ourselves more, to live freely as we truly are, to be supportive, understanding and accepting, and allow others to live freely as they truly are, just as Sharon did. And to touch someone in some way, the way she touched so many. So I want to open the space for her family to share about Sharon, and I think her sister Debbie is going to go first.
That's lovely. That's lovely. Thank you.
So I've known Sharon longer than almost anyone, as I was 2 years old when she was born. And although I don't remember all that much about the early years, I do have some memories I thought I might share. Some are actual memories, and other, quote, memories are from stories that have been repeated over and over again through the years. I thought that sharing some of these memories might provide a glimpse into Sharon's life before most of you knew her. I remember the two of us playing in our backyard in Seaford when we were little, and when we got a bit older, playing with all the kids on our block. Our best friends across the street were sisters our age, Susie and Karen, and we played together all the time. Then more kids moved in, and we had a whole gang of friends. We would play outside all day, going from house to house, yard to yard. It was a great place to grow up. I remember the outfits my Nana used to sew for us when we were little. Always matching outfits. Easter Sunday, we would be dressed in frilly matchy dresses, and of course, matching Easter bonnets and white gloves. This big. Sharon was, of course, smaller than me and always looked ever so adorable in those outfits. She did. Mom always tells the story of how when Sharon would go into the kitchen and ask her for a lollipop or a cookie, Mom would give her one, and Sharon would look up at her and say, "For Debbie too?" Just like that. I honestly don't have an actual memory of this, but I'm certain it happened. I've heard about it many, many times through the years. And I love hearing Mom tell that story as she tries to imitate Sharon's little voice. It's adorable. I remember the two of us at day camp together out at the beach on Long Island. Dad was the director of the camp, so we went to camp every summer back then. Sharon and I would stay out there and play long after the other campers left for the day while we waited for Dad to finish his work and take us home. We knew every inch of the place. Sharon particularly liked the arts and crafts shed. She was artsy and craftsy even back then. Sharon was 7 years old when we moved to New Jersey. We again found a pair of sisters on our block to play with. The younger sister, also named Sharon, became Sharon's best friend. The two of them established the Sharon and Sharon Sharing Club. No big sisters allowed. No one not named Sharon. The two Sharons were inseparable for years, doing projects and going on lots of adventures together. One day, Sharon brought home a puppy. She didn't ask my parents' permission, just brought it home in a box. I don't know how she got my parents to agree to let her keep him. Probably swore to take care of him all by herself, but she did. She named the puppy Pal. She loved Pal and did end up doing much of the work required to care for him. And while that was her first dog, she had quite a few others through the years, even adopting a senior dog that had medical and emotional issues and needed a good nurturer. On holidays, we would often get together with our cousins. And if no one remembers anything else about those gatherings, the thing they do remember was how all the kids worked together to put on a show for the parents. We would plan out the show, sketches, comedy, singing, even choreography. We'd rehearse it several times and then perform it for the adults using the fireplace for our fireplace hearth for our stage. Sharon could do it all. She could sing, she could be funny, and she could steal the show with her cuteness. Our parents would laugh or try to keep from laughing as appropriate, and clap and cheer as we presented our production. Those shows must have been memorable because I still, to this day, hear about them from my mom and my Aunt Charlotte. Then came high school and then college. I don't have a whole lot of memories to share from that time, since I myself was at college and then Sharon was away as well. But Sharon eventually married her high school sweetheart, Phil. She had numerous jobs through the years, always interested in trying something new. She was a guidance counselor, a realtor, a bartender, even a kitchen designer for a short time. She also sold cars and furniture. No matter what job Sharon had, she seemed to love it exuberantly. But through it all, the job she loved best was being a mom, and of course, a wife to her sweet hubby. Sharon loved her family. Ultimately, Sharon returned to doing what she loved doing long before working at any of those jobs, painting. Sharon always loved to paint. In fact, when she was in high school, she studied with an artist that lived nearby. In recent years, she shared her love of painting with others through the classes she taught. I took one of those classes, as did Rich, my husband. And although I enjoyed watching her in her element, I was the struggling student. It was clear that Sharon had inherited all of Mom's artistic genes, leaving not a one for me. It's true. It is true. At the end of the class, I handed Sharon my unfinished, quote, masterpiece, and asked her to fix all my mistakes and complete it for me, which she did expertly and in just minutes, no less. Most impressive. Sharon was always a presence in a room. Mom called her a bubble. She was vivacious and talkative, and as anyone who knew her will tell you, she had an infectious laugh. As my cousin said to me a few days ago, It was a laugh that filled the room. And while everyone seems to remember that laugh, what they probably don't know is that Sharon and I shared an unusual peculiarity. When we laughed together, we would often end up crying and laughing at the same time. Wiping our eyes, laughing again, crying again, sheer hysteria. Our husbands know. Yeah. It would often go on for quite a while. Then we would finally calm down, try to keep from hyperventilating, take a few deep breaths, and then one of us would say something, even just a word, and it would start all over again. More laughter, more tears, more tissues, more hysteria. It was crazy. We would joke about what we call this weird cross-wiring that we both had, an observation that itself could set us off again. Sharon was very witty. Those who were following Sharon's journey on Caring Bridge know that through it all, she never lost her wittiness. I can attest. She was witty right up to the end. Rich and I both found that to be extraordinary. We would get off our Zoom calls with her and marvel at how sharp and witty she still was, even with all she was going through. I was incredibly blessed to have been able to talk with Sharon a few days before she passed. She could barely speak at that point, struggling to make her words clear. But we were able to tell each other, "I love you," and to talk for a couple of minutes. I told her how we were thinking about her all the time and that I would talk with her again soon, not knowing for sure if I would actually get that chance. It was heart-wrenching, but it was also a gift, one for which I will be forever grateful. And now here we are, gathered to celebrate Sharon's life. And while we grieve that she was taken from us much too soon, I think we all know that she is now in a better place, healthy once again, lighting up that place with her infectious laughter. Laughter that we will all always remember. I'm sorry, I don't know where the, oh, here it is.
No, you gotta turn it on.
The world needs more Sharons. Whenever you go to a funeral or a lecture or a class or anything else, what's in the middle, no one remembers. So I'm going to begin and end with the same thing. The world needs more Sharons. Sharon was just one of those people whose raw talent was making people feel good about themselves. She lived her whole life thinking about others, making other people laugh. Whatever was going on with you, if you said something like, I'm doing this, or I have that, she said, oh, I'd love to have that. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's the best. And she always made you feel good. If I said, Sharon, I'm starting a kosher zebra farm in the North Pole, and I spent every money of mine, every penny I had. She said, that's great. I want to have a kosher zebra farm too. Every time. I love my two sisters. My two sisters crack me up. One is over here and one is over here. Debbie, love you dearly. You're a thoroughbred. You're a tough act to follow. Good job, Mom. Dad, wherever you are. So anyway, Debbie sings like an angel. She got great grades in school, married her high school sweetheart, had a great career. The only thing that slipped by Debbie was she was runner-up valedictorian. Well, for the record, the young lady who I happen to know who's a valedictorian for her lives in a yurt on an organic vegetable farm in Oregon and feeds her dog vegetables. My sister Debbie lives in a small mansion on a golf course. Inside it's a museum. She doesn't play golf. Unlike Debbie, I have a very clear memory. I have a lot of things I cannot do, but one thing I do have is an extremely good memory. Growing up with Debbie and Sharon, it was the typical young pesky brother, they were a united front against me for many years until I became their size, and then things changed. But for a long time, they were quite the pair. And of course, middle school, high school, Debbie pairs up with Rich, Sharon winds up with Phil. Dad's out of the house, Mom is working a lot, so I got to hang out with Sharon a little bit in this time period. And, you know, Debbie's wonderful. Great example because she plays by the rules. Debbie is by the book. I love it because I see a lot of myself in Debbie. But I also see a lot of Sharon in me. I am both my sisters in a lot of cases. And Pat and I have this conversation. Here's a couple of examples. Horror in my house on a Sunday. We had to do chores. We all wanted to go out and play with our friends. It wasn't too hard for Debbie. Okay, kids, last thing, whatever horrible thing we're doing, last thing, go clean your rooms. Debbie's room was not perfect, but she was pretty quickly able to do it and then get out the door and go do whatever she wanted to do. Sharon's room so I'd be in my room. I had the closest room to the stairs, and I see Sharon zipping by. God, her room must be taking hours. Why am I still stuck in there and they're out playing? Dad would come in, and he'd do his inspection as supervisor. And he'd look in the door. Okay, you go. Why am I stuck here doing everything? Well, Debbie's room, perfect. Sharon's room, perfect. I'm still in there cleaning. I want to go out and play. So later on, Sharon said, come here. There's all her stuff. It's piled this high. Sharon, Debbie had Grandma Sedell's Maverick. And then Sharon had it. Eventually came to me, I called it the Band-Aid, I put Band-Aids on, but that's not the point of the story. The point is Sharon could drive, which means I could get driven to a friend's house across town or whatever. So, Doug, what are you doing? Nothing. Let's go to Kentucky Fried Chicken in the Wayne Hills Mall, which is the same. Let's go. So Sharon and I go to the Kentucky Fried Chicken in the Wayne Hills Mall, and they were advertising pretty heavily, extra crispy. Okay? I'm eating whatever. I'm watching my sister Sharon. She's pulling the skin off, and dunking it. She had like 10 things of ketchup. She goes, I'm done. She threw the chicken away. She just ate the skin. So Sharon didn't play by the same set of rules as everybody else. So I noticed the disparity between my two sisters. I am sort of the balance in the middle of my two sisters. I mean, Sharon, I don't know this for fact, but I'm sure she got pulled over for speeding tickets. She probably never paid one of them. She probably talked her way out of every single one.
Yes.
So going back to the united front of two older sisters. My two older sisters would play some jokes on me. One time a lamp fell over and broke or whatever. I have no idea what happened. I got blamed for it. So came up my famous, it happened. When something would break and I would get blamed for it, it happened. I have no idea. But my favorite one that I like to point out is my sisters would read a book. Here we go. You know the story. You know how this ends. I'm looking up at the camera for the first time. So I'm speaking to you, but I guess we're speaking to live stream. Is that the camera?
Yep, right here.
All right. If you're at home watching this funeral's been modified to fit your screen, okay? Sharon and Debbie would read a book. Oh, it's such a good book. Oh, it's such a book. Oh, Doug, you have to read this. Oh, you're too young to read this. Oh, you got to read this book. So I don't know what book it was. I think I know what book it was. We'll circle back to that in a second. Doug, what page are you on? 70. What page are you on? 80. What page are you on? And that night I went to read because Mom taught me I would read every night. I still read quite a bit. I go to read the book, and the last 10 pages of the book are ripped out. This is what I grew up with until I got to be their size and they were bigger than they left me alone, which was a wise decision. So this brings me to my next point, in that in my house in Florida, Sharon is all over my house. She's everywhere, every room. She's in every freaking room. Sharon would, the last many years, would come to Florida and she would bring something with her. She always thinks about others. She brings something that you would think you would want. One of my favorite examples is this completely useless thing. It looks like an Asian koi fish that you could water plants with or do something. It doesn't, first of all, it doesn't hold water. But she must have picked it up in some knick-knack shop. So, oh, Doug likes fishing. I'm going to get him a fish. That's kind of the way she would think about things. She brought me a menorah knowing I have not a religious bone in my body. She brought me lyrics to a song that I've performed many, many times. Some of this. She brought a coffee cup that says simplify. Now, I like clutter and Pat likes to unclutter. So she says, remember the Sharon cup, simplify. Thanks, Sharon. I'll be hearing that for. But Sharon, I told the story about the book to her a few years ago. And I think I remembered the name of the book was actually Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Debbie, ring a bell?
Oh, that's.
She wrote me a copy of the book.
Oh. She remembered.
So
Lots of movies, but-
anyway, where I sleep, there's a wall here. It was the only wall in the house I could put a painting that Sharon gave me. When I was a boy, it's no secret that I loved to fish. So she brought me a picture of a boy in a blue shirt in a boat with a fishing pole, and you see him from the back. You would recognize it's me because if you look at me from the back, you'd see my bald spot. But the point of the matter is that Sharon painted this little boy, and the shirt is kind of like this square, chunky shirt. I said to her, Sharon, I love this painting. When I was a kid, I was skinny. That's okay. When I come down to Florida next time, I'm going to bring some paint, a brush, and I'll adjust it for you. I'll make you skinny. She's not going to get a chance. So getting back to Sharon's talent, I often describe Sharon as the world's easiest person in the world to meet. Sharon was like a puppy dog. I have two opposite sisters. Debbie is calm, reserved. You know right away you're speaking with someone who's got everything to say. Debbie has an economy with words. Every word that comes out of Debbie's mouth, she means what she says what she means. It's like a blues musician who plays a great solo with just a few notes. You know what she says and know where she stands. With Sharon, she was all over the place. Going back to this thing that she had. Dale Carnegie wrote that humans crave appreciation above all other things. Sharon was full of it. You'd cook her something, oh, that's the best hamburger. Oh, whatever, right? Even if it was terrible. But Sharon and I had a lot of fun together. These last few years, she would come down to Florida a few times. And yeah, I have the day gig, but everybody knows I play in a band. She loved to come. She would call me on the phone and say, when is the band playing? And she would come down. And, you know, a lot of my friends, we would set up a table for the band. People come. My friends would come and go. We'd play 4 sets, 20 minutes off, 40 minutes on. You know, usually like from 9 to 1 in the morning or 10 to 2. So late night. And some of these places are not as nice as others. Some of them are pretty upscale. Some of them are pretty downscale. But she would stay for the entire thing. She loved it. She absolutely loved it. And that was fun. Quick fun story. Another thing that I did with her was I've been known to relax on a motorcycle and she would hop on the back. Going into my community, there are 2 idiotic gates. Now, I go in my house and I think about Sharon, but every time I go through these gates, I had Sharon on the back. If you didn't know who I was, one of the gates is about like that and one of them is like this, and they're about that far apart. But if you go through on the motorcycle, you just lean to the side, your handlebars go through, and you don't have to wait for the gate. I went through it, and Sharon laughed for 10 minutes. She just loved it. There's not a time I go through that gate and I don't think about Sharon laughing. But she was so much fun, and everybody wanted to hang out with her, talk to her and everything. She was just the best. So in Phil, Sharon found somebody perfect for each other. Phil is organized, knows what he's just there. Sharon, I don't know how you dealt with Sharon because you talked all these different things, but she must have cracked you up. Thank God for both of my sisters, Phil for Sharon and Rich for Debbie. Great. You guys have great lives together. You obviously love each other. And I see this now with August and Sam. Fantastic. Great. Love you guys. And recently we got to hang out a little bit more than usual, and I see us hanging out a whole lot more. Augie doggy. Smiles a lot like Sharon. Giggles like Sharon. And sometimes I caught myself just going like that. It was like kind of walking a little like Sharon. Sharon is, you want to see a little bit of Sharon, you look right there. My mom has lost her buddy. Once a week at least, she'd go over and they had the girls' club. Wow. You know, that's something fierce. I don't know what to say about that. I feel bad. I live in Florida now. I feel like moving back. I don't think that's going to happen, but I feel like it. So, but you might see me up here a little bit more than you have been. All right. Let's get over this COVID stuff. Strange coincidence. Pat and Sharon share the same birthday. When I met Pat, there were a lot of weird birthday coincidences. I have Pat's sister-in-law's birthday. Her mom and my ex have the same birthday. It gets weirder than that, but I told you I'm not superstitious or religious, so we're not getting down there. So a few weeks ago, I went into the basement. I was looking at a lot of these paintings that we see here. And Sharon really, you know, when she started painting, I was like, Doug, I'm teaching painting. Like, oh yeah, this will last about 2 weeks. No. No. Sharon really, it was in her and it had to be, she developed over time. And that is just a beautiful painting. I was in the West Wing, looking at obviously some of her very early things. It was just like, wow, from that to, in a few years. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So kind of like Uncle Arthur, who became a sculptor when he retired, just so a couple more things. I'll try to shorten it up a little bit here. But a few weeks ago, I was up here, and these are the two last sentences Sharon said to me. All right? Now, Sharon, just like Debbie described, right to the very end, very witty. And I heard the story, I wasn't there for it. She says, Nurse Oksana said, "Hey, you feel any pain?" She points at Phil. So Sharon was very witty to the end. So to hear her on a Saturday, she's just looked at me, and there were a lot of long pauses. I'm just holding her hand, I'm just looking at her. You know, there's not, what are you going to say? She says, "I'm mad at the world." And that broke my heart. That broke my heart. The next day, I had to leave. And I had a moment of quiet with her. We're sitting there talking. I'm in the same position. I'm holding her hand. I'm just looking at her eyes. She's right there. She looks at me, and you should take this with you. If you remember anything about what I said, you take this with you and take this to the bank. She looks at me and she says, "Don't worry about anything." She knew what was happening, and she knew that we all loved her, and we were worried sick about her, and you know, things like this. You know, she said, "Don't worry about anything." So, going back to the basement with all these paintings, as described, there were some paintings down there that were unfinished. And I said, "Wow, that calls it to a T." Sharon, at 59 years old, being gone, is an unfinished painting. Think of all the lives she touched before painting, after painting, all the fun that we had with her, all the paintings that are out there that are because of her. Her life is an unfinished painting. At 59 years old, we should not be here for this. This is not what's supposed to happen. For somebody who's so good, who never hurt a fly. The world needs more Sharons. That's it.
It's beautiful.
Here's the- You want that?
Thank you, Phil. Well, that wasn't planned. I do know that Sharon, sometime during her illness, asked Phil to take care of me because I live alone. And so far, so good. Excuse me. I'm very proud of my daughter Debbie and my son Doug. I told you so much about our family and you seem to enjoy it. Too loud?
No, that's good.
Debbie told you about Sharon, who was early on called Little Me Too. And she adored Debbie, and then Debbie had the nerve to grow all the way up and go to kindergarten and leave her. And so the story about the lollipops and the cookies were true. And whenever I would give Sharon something as early and young and unrelated to any of this psychology or what have you, she would take it, hold it, not even open it, and say, "And for Debbie too." And that's the start of all the connections of the outgoing, very young child who really was so attached to her sister and being part of our family. Sharon was a middle child and was a very loving kid. She tested herself in so many ways, so many activities, so many jobs. They were mentioned except one was left out. At one point, she wanted to become a jockey. She loved horses. Didn't like what had to be shoveled away, but loved the idea of becoming a jockey. Until she got too tall and a few more pounds, and that took the whole opportunity off the books. She also, I can remember this so clearly, while in high school, she had a job in Wyckoff at the Center for Children that were disabled who lived there. And every day she went to that place and fed a little boy who could not swallow and spent 2-3 hours, if that's how long it took, every day for the whole summer. That's how she spent those days. And she cared about this kid. I never met him or his family, but this was something that she had to do because it was coming from her heart. Sharon's favorite word, or one of, was joy. She loved bringing joy to other people. She loved when people brought her joy, joyful things, joyful ideas, joyful colored makeup, whatever it was joyful. She always used that word. And certainly she brought me joy. She delighted in stories of the olden days that I could tell her from my parents way back, and wanted to know who was Aunt May and who was Uncle Arthur and things that they did and how they impacted my life. She became my best friend. She came over and yes, she found one and said, "Gotta change that light bulb." And she did it. Mom, don't you climb up. Crap, you climb up. What am I gonna do when you're not here and the light bulb goes out? Come on, you've all been in that place. Oh, send Phil, I got it. That's probably what she was thinking. I won't pursue this for a long time, but I'd like to read something that I found very touching. And it's called Life is Eternal. I am standing upon the seashore. A ship at my side spreads her white sails to the morning breeze and starts for the blue ocean. She is an object of beauty and strength, and I stand and watch her until at length she hangs like a speck of white cloud. Just where the sea and sky come down and mingle with each other. Then someone says, "There, she's gone." Gone where? Gone from my sight, that is all. She is just as large in mast and hull and spar as she was when she left my side, and just as able to bear her load of living freight to the place of her destination. Her diminished size is in me, not her. And just at that moment, when someone at my side says, "There, she's gone," there are other eyes watching her coming and other voices ready to take up the glad shout, "There she comes."
I can get it.
I got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi. I came to know Sharon a good bit more recently than most other folks here. So my time up here will be correspondingly brief. It's hard to know what to say about Sharon. I first met her a few years ago, and I knew her a good while before she was diagnosed with cancer. But for some reason, the Sharon that sticks most in my head lately is the one of the last few months. I know that I loved her deeply, that I thought of her as a second mother, that I considered her a friend and was always glad to see her, but I can't seem to find the root of those feelings. I know that I met her some years ago in a diner after August and I had been dating a while. When she told us she just bought a hookah from next door and that it was going to help her quit smoking. I know that when I started coming to Christmas with this family, she would subvert the rules she herself had set for gift giving in order to give everyone else more gifts. I know we were united by sun signs and a deep, enduring love for cheeseburgers and onion rings. I know that for a while after her diagnosis, she decided my name was Susan, that she desperately wanted me to be able to eat hot dogs wrapped in everything bagel dough, that she seemed extremely proud anytime I told her she was doing a good job, that she understood the value of chocolate ice cream, that more than anything, she wanted the people she loved to be okay. She was exceptionally kind, generous, and caring right to the end. The world is going to be a very different place without Sharon Gorman, but I think that she would want her memory to be a source of motivation rather than one of sadness. to give before we get and to keep on giving, to try new things whenever we can, to make a home for art in our lives, to tell our loved ones how we feel, and especially to eat whatever we damn well please.
I love that.
I got it, yeah. Okay. It has been said that people living deeply have no fear of death. And I can say without a doubt that my mother truly had none. As much as we're here today in the face of tragedy of a woman we love dying too young, I am comforted in remembering that she managed to pack 1 million lives into those 59 years. My mother's life, which was full of passions pursued, careers tried, and furniture rearranged, came to a strange halt last April. Some people die by heart attack or they drown. Some people die at once in a car accident. Instead, my mom was thrown careening in slow motion into a final period of childlike innocence, sacred and surreal. In her last months, it was an honor and a blessing to be able to return some of her parental love in kind, tucking her in at night, letting her bask in the glow of simply looking at my face, baking her favorite pastries for her, buying her glow-in-the-dark stickers, and obliging her sometimes unusual requests to let me call her little duck house and to eat Pringles off of my nose. These strange and special memories of the past 6 months I'll keep with me forever. But I know that my mom would want us to remember her in her full vitality. To give you a sense of it, I want to quote an email my mom sent me in response to some boy dumping me for someone else in college. This is what she wrote. Some people drive a 1995 Ford station wagon. It is good and dependable. It does not have many bells and whistles, but it is stable and reliable. It is a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10. It looks nice, and it is nice. The owners eat meatloaf on Mondays and have a nice yard. Others like to own an Italian sports car, like a 2012 Maserati. It flies. It is temperamental. It's awesome and requires a high level of maintenance. It is smart in looks and style. It is a powerhouse under the hood. It is an amazing amalgamation of talent and skill and savvy. It owns the road. Maybe unsettling to some, but for those up to the challenge, it will rock their world. The owners see the world with wonder and excitement. They never know what they will eat on Mondays. Perhaps someone you know recently bought a 1995 Ford. To each his own, I say. Me personally, I have no interest in 1995 Ford station wagons. My mom taught me many lessons in life. It wasn't just that I should aim to be and be proud of being a 2012 Maserati like her. In particular, there were 3 pieces of advice I remember her imparting to me time and time again. Number 1, if you look like you know what you're doing and you're supposed to be there, no one will question you. This was a piece of advice I remember I used to leave my homework or my textbook in my locker at school by accident. And so my mom would come with me after hours and try to sneak back into the building when it was closed, past the guards, and in so we could rescue my homework so I could get it done in time. Advice number 2, it never hurts to ask. For me, that amounted to, I really wanted to play My Heart Will Go On in my piano recital, and I was scared to ask my teacher if I could practice that song. But for my mom, it never hurts to ask meant, Something like this, a story she told me recently. She said, "Did I ever tell you about the time that I sold a house that wasn't even for sale?" What? No. Yeah. So, I had this client and I helped sell her, I think, an office building or something. And when she, found this office, she looked across the street and she saw this home and she thought it would be a perfect family home. Only just a small problem. It wasn't for sale. But I said, "Oh, that's no problem." So I just knocked on the door and this man came to the door and I said, "Hi, I'm so sorry to disturb you during the middle of your day. You must be wondering who I am. Well, I am Sharon Gorman and I would love to sell your house. I know that it's not for sale, but I have a client here. She's willing to pay cash. And you know what? My mom closed the deal. She sold the house." Third piece of advice my mom often said to me: school is not the most important thing. This was something she told me when she took me out of school to go see the Rent movie when it was in theaters. And I was very nervous about, missing a day of school. And she had to remind me, "Look, August, school is not the most important thing." Now, this third piece of advice grew sort of both more humorous and more poignant over the years as I've struggled to now make a career for myself in the sometimes overly stuffy and self-important field of academia. My field is philosophy, and I often hear about something in philosophy they call moral education. And I've always wondered to myself, is that really a thing that happens? Like parents sit you down when you're a kid, and they teach you lessons about how to be a good person and how to lead a good life. And everyone seems to have this sense that that's a thing that happened. And I think that's just not really something that happened in my family. I don't know, we were more often eating chicken fingers at a pub or something. But I've come to realize that my mom showed me in so many ways what's really important in life and what isn't. My mom, I think, was primarily, as anyone who took her paint and sip classes knows, someone who taught by example. So upon reflection, I'd like to add to the list of things that I think my mom wanted me and wanted us to learn from her example. So as many people have mentioned, my mom always had a new job, and it was always, always her dream job. Always. I found it. It's my calling. I love it. It's so great. So change and adventure keep life interesting. That's going to be number 4. As I've spoken to many of my friends who I grew up with in the recent week, everyone says they loved coming to our house. I was like, well, I do like our house. The Sparta house. They loved the house. And what they loved was that my parents were so non-judgmental. They felt like they could be there and say anything. They could be themselves. And it was a really special place for a lot of my friends. My mom didn't judge anyone. She was so open to whatever, whoever. You could tell her anything about what's happening. It didn't bat an eye. It didn't matter to her. So number 5, everyone deserves a listening ear. Don't judge anyone. As has been sort of mentioned also already, my mom was a great gift giver and also a great gift receiver. A funny story we like to tell is the time that my mom's brother-in-law, I think, bought her chocolates for Christmas, or someone on that side of the family. And when my mom opened the present, she said, "Oh my gosh, this is the perfect assortment for me." So we always pulled her leg about that. It's the perfect assortment for you. But she really did have something nice to say. And she knew that receiving a gift is always special. That's number 6. My number 7, love all the way. Love so much it hurts and fight for the ones you love. In reflecting in the past few months, I've thought about how even many of the times when my mom and I fought, the thing we were fighting over was she was trying to help me with something. She was overstepping her bounds. So one time I was so mad at her, it was because one of the colleges I applied to, I only got on the wait list for it. And instead of waiting and deciding, like what's the process for trying to get off the wait list, she just called up the admissions and demanded that I be let in because she couldn't understand. She couldn't fathom that they didn't let me in. Something growing up, there's a lot of friends, moms, and people in the town would try to sort of like outdo each other in terms of bringing things for the school party that you'd have in class, and people were baking brownies, and my mom was doing this and that. And my mom always said, "Oh my God, please tell me you didn't sign us up for anything other than paper plates. Or next time, put cups." But the thing about it is that my mom just did not spend a moment of her energy worrying about what other people thought about her. She did not have time for that. She had more important things to be doing, joy to be having, and I think that that's important. Number 9, my mom always said when I was growing up, no matter where we went, she would have a cup of coffee and she would say, "This coffee is delicious." And there's a song I listened to in high school where the lyric was, "Snails see the benefits, the beauty in every inch," and my mom just loved that for whatever reason. And my mom, more than anyone I ever know, would talk about how much she was looking forward to going to sleep that night, and for her head to hit the pillow, to have a quiet night at home, to have a good cup of coffee in the morning. She just bathed in like these simple pleasures. And I think that she wanted us all to be able to appreciate those things too. Number 10 on my list, I think charity is more important than profit. So my mom had various business ventures throughout the years. And sometimes we would talk about sort of how the business was working and how it was going. And I'd say, "Okay, so now you're selling, paint and sip classes. How much are you charging for that?" I think, usually, you could probably $60. "Oh, well, I'm charging 20. And then there's this whole group and I'm giving them a coupon," and they just love it. So it was always, I had to remind her that she was trying to run a business and not a charity. And this followed throughout various ones of her ventures. She was off doing some sort of business thing, and she had such good business savvy too, and amazing salesperson. She could sell anything, but she would never want to manipulate someone out of money. She would never want to, upcharge something. She would undervalue her work and her services, but only because she just wanted to give, and she didn't see why the whole world didn't work that way. My number 11 is that you may fight with people you love, but at the end of the day, you should be able to say, "I'm sorry, I was a stupid head." That's how my mom and I ended pretty much every fight we ever had. At the end, through tears and apologies, would say, "I'm sorry, I was a stupid head." And the other would say, "No, I was a stupid head. No, I was more of a stupid head." And I think that's really important. It's something that I try to take with me in life. Number 12, my mom believed everyone has the capacity to create. She thought that art was the closest thing to magic in this world. And when my mom first applied for her first paint and sip job, I remember I talked to her on the phone, and she was sort of like uncharacteristically modest, or a little bit not nervous, because she aced the interview, of course she did, but she didn't really see herself as an artist. And as you can see, she was an incredible artist. But she was very modest about it. But what she believed was that everyone has this capacity to create within them. Everyone can do this, and that it can be just a source of joy. And she didn't see herself as having some special born talent for it. She just saw herself as someone who loved it, and she would spend hours and hours doing it. Number 13, embrace every moment that you and your family are happy and healthy. My mom always said that all she wanted was for her family to be happy and healthy. She was always saying that she had a perfect life. She talked about when people did, any sort of intake, even at the beginning of her cancer and everything, say, have you had any trauma in life? And she said, I have never had any trauma in my life. I don't even know what that would be. And my mom didn't have a perfect life. I think another person would describe some of their experiences as being traumatic, but she just didn't see life that way. She didn't see it that way. Okay. Number 14. There's only 2 more. Don't take yourself too seriously. She said to me that this was something that she thought she embraced throughout her entire life. That you shouldn't take yourself too seriously. And she thought a lot of people took themselves too seriously. I was looking through emails and I found one where I had sent her an email all worried because I lost my debit card when I was in college. I was on an alternative spring break trip doing Habitat Humanity in North Carolina, and I was up on a mountain on a mile-high swinging bridge, and I lost my debit card. And this is my mom's response. Seriously? You dropped the debit card off the swinging bridge 1 mile above sea level? Yes, I looked it up. Well, that ought to be a commercial or something. I can't think of a more exciting, adventurous way to lose a debit card. Okay, last one, 15. Look to the good and enjoy life. My mom said to me in her last weeks, I want you to enjoy life. And one of the truly miraculous things was on the first night of chemotherapy when my dad and I helped her take her first pill. She took chemotherapy as a pill. She had to take a pill, and then it was like an anti-nausea, and then there was an hour, and then she took another pill, and we sort of started this routine, and then we got her in bed. And my dad made the bed with her in it. And she looked up at us and she said, oh my gosh, do I get this kind of treatment every night of chemotherapy? This is the best. She really did. And my dad and I were just stunned. And we walked out of that room that night with this feeling that, like, being around her, she made us feel like we would be absurd to be upset in that moment, because she just was not upset. She was just thrilled at being able to get tucked in, and it's not like she didn't understand what was happening. She did. And it was just, I just don't even know how to respond to someone like that. And so since the woman simply can't be summarized, I want to close with another email from my mom in her own words, and then I'm going to end with a poem. So here's the email from my mom. She wrote, I had my mom sign my yearbook when I graduated high school. What she wrote was aim high, a sort of reach for the stars kind of thing. But I always have, and it wasn't easy at times, but I always knew that whatever happened to me, I would land on my feet. I never stood by the water. I always jumped in with reckless abandon. The fact that I seem to have a guardian angel looking over me also helps. I insist on the world on my terms. I don't ever want to regret not trying. So I try and I fail, but also I win a lot. I have found that it is better to try to follow your heart and mind and passion. I asked you one time if you thought ignorance was bliss, and you scoffed at the idea. I hope you still would. This is not to say that there isn't a beauty in stillness and that I don't appreciate a more simple life. I have found a balance, and I know you will too. Keep your heart and mind open, my sweetie. Life will unfold as it should. I love you very much, Mommy. And I'm going to end with a poem. This is called What the Living Do by Marie Howe. Johnny, the kitchen sink has been clogged for days. Some utensil probably fell down there, and the Drano won't work but smells dangerous, and the crusty dishes have piled up, waiting for the plumber I still haven't called. This is the everyday we spoke of. It's winter again. The sky is a deep, headstrong blue, and the sunlight pours through the open living room windows because the heat's on too high in here and I can't turn it off. For weeks now, driving or dropping a bag of groceries in the street, the bag breaking, I've been thinking, this is what the living do. And yesterday, hurrying along those wobbly bricks in the Cambridge sidewalk, spilling my coffee down my wrist and sleeve, I thought it again. And again later when buying a hairbrush. This is it. Parking, slamming the car door shut in the cold, what you called that yearning, what you finally gave up. We want the spring to come and the winter to pass. We want whoever to call or not call, a letter, a kiss. We want more and then more of it. But there are moments, walking, when I catch a glimpse of myself in the window glass, say the window of the corner video store, and I'm gripped by a cherishing so deep for my own blowing hair, chapped face, and unbuttoned coat that I'm speechless. I am living. I remember you. Thanks.
Is Mike still on?
Yeah.
It is. Okay. This is going to be very brief because it might be really brief. I didn't know my family, everybody was a public speaker. So as you know, Sharon and I were married for 35 years and we knew each other for 10 years before that. She she was my life partner. She was my best friend. You know, that sounds cliche, but it's true. I think when you say Phil and Sharon, kind of think of it as a single entity. I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to get through this one. Come on, Phil. She would want you to get through this. So, you know, I met Sharon in high school, and the first thing I noticed about her was her infectious laugh, as so many people brought up. And words like effervescent, or bubbly, or sparkly, exuberant, they're all perfect adjectives to describe Sharon. And we were high school sweethearts. We did break up with each other a few times along the way. Since then, she broke up with me the first time, but then I think I paid her back a few times. But I think we always knew that we were destined to be married, as we were. 5 years ago, we went to Aruba with our good friends Ronnie and Donna, and Sharon and I renewed our vows to each other. That was 30 years after we had gone to Aruba on our honeymoon. So, you know, our love and our life together was stronger now, 35 years later, than it was, you know, the day we got married. As you've heard over and over, Sharon is always concerned for others first. Family, absolutely. But friends, students, acquaintances, always putting the other person's needs before hers. And even with as you've heard, with the terminal cancer diagnosis, she was much more concerned with how it affected her family. Not once during the 6 months that, you know, since her diagnosis, not once did I ever hear her say, why me? She always just asked, you know, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? And that's the way she lived her entire life. I don't think a mother could love a child more, harder, more emotionally, more fiercely than Sharon loved August. And, you know, she was fiercely protective of her son and just so incredibly proud of them. And I don't think it's possible to love someone harder. So Sharon, we had a beautiful life together. I love you. I miss you. I hope you're looking down from heaven with your dad and my dad and Grandma Mary. Okay. Let's
I have to say that part of what I do in life is celebrations of life. And I really don't think I've ever heard such beautiful, deep, inspiring, delightful, heartfelt sharing ever before. So I'm so grateful. I'm honored to have witnessed the life that she lived through all of you, and not only the way you shared how she lived, but really so much of what you said inspired me to integrate that into my life. So I really appreciate it. And I'm deeply, deeply sorry that I didn't really even know her, but I feel like I did. And all of you represented her so beautifully. So God bless you. And thank you. And thank you for, I thank you, God, for sharing so generously with each of you and with the world. I know that each of us appreciates everything that she's been in your lives. So it's also glorious to realize, because this is the reality of it, that a whole new exciting adventure lies before her, awaiting her discovery. I just have to share with you that the poem that you read is something that I traditionally include in all of my services, and something said to me not to include it. And I'm so glad, because you read it, the poem that you read. It's something I usually read, and I would have read it and I would have taken your spotlight. So I'm so glad I was inspired not to use it, because it's such a beautiful poem and you got to read it for your daughter.
The concept is
It's such a beautiful thing.
people are waiting for us
Right, and
wherever we go
exactly,
and forever.
right. And so wherever
Thank
she is, it's a coming. They're celebrating her arrival.
There she is.
Even as we release her in our departure. So I'm so glad you shared it. That was really beautiful. So now, as each of us uphold the vision and memory of Sharon, envision her as being radiant and healthy and whole and completely at peace. And rejoice with her in the promise that she has found. And bless her with your love and support as she continues life's journey in spiritual unfoldment. So as we hold Sharon in our hearts and memories from this day forward, we commit ourselves to carrying her with us always. And from what I know of Sharon and from what you've all shared, I think she would want everyone to continue to be extraordinary in your unique way. And as August said so perfectly, to live, just to dive in, live fully, have every day be an adventure. What beautiful motivation. And so I offer this as a final reading. This is called Epitaph by Merritt Malloy. When I die, give what's left of me to the children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, Cry for your brother walking the street beside you. When you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give to me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known and loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies, and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So that when all that's left of me is love, give me away. I'll see you at home in the earth. So I suggest that we close our eyes now to feel this goodbye. Sharon Lynn Gorman, in the name of the infinite spirit in which we all live and move and have our being, with this spoken word, I now sever the bondage of earthly beliefs and possessive thoughts and release your soul into the creative spirit from which it came. God bless you and keep you, Sharon, and thank you. Thank you for all you have gifted to us in your loving life. What good you have shown us, we will show to others. Our world will always be a better place because you were here. Well, let us pray. Eternal Spirit, we are thankful for one who shared her life with us, one for whom love and family were so important, whose life was lived with vigor. God grant us such strength in the memory of our friend and loved one, that we might be thankful for the gift of life that is given to each of us. And in our hearts, may the loss of Sharon be balanced by the thanksgiving for the life that was shared with us. Amen. And so this service is going to close with a very special song. And when Phil told me the name of the song, I said, I'm not really good with the names of songs, but of course I know this song. It's an amazing song. It was their wedding song. He's going to take us in a minute. It's called Follow You, Follow Me. So I know that Sharon's love will just continue to follow each of you as you follow the legacy of love that she left.